Hey everybody, it's James Freeman. So guys, today I'm looking at this article here. When I saw it at first, I didn't know what it was. I couldn't tell if it was satire, if it was for real, if it was the actual words of a police officer, because while it sounds like the actual words of a police officer, I don't think that a lot of cops who are active duty are willing to say things like what this cop said, because I don't know if it's allowed, even though it certainly expresses what I believe most cops feel. I read through the whole article wondering what it is, but had skipped over this little part right here that tells exactly what this is. So the article is titled, "I'm a cop. If you don't want to get hurt, don't challenge me." This is an exact quote here from the article. It's not the police, but the people they stop who can prevent a detention from turning into a tragedy. So this is from Sunil Dutta, I guess. Sunil Dutta. I know I'm pronouncing that wrong. Sunil Dutta. PhD, 17-year veteran police officer in Los Angeles. This is from his book, Bloodlines, The Imperial Roots of Terrorism in South Asia. Obviously this is pretty old because it says will be released February 2015. These are his personal opinions. I think that a lot of police genuinely share these outright psychotic, tyrannical opinions. Starts out, a teenager is fatally shot by a police officer. The police are accused of being bloodthirsty, trigger-happy murderers. Riots erupt. This, we are led to believe, is the way of things in America. It is also a terrible calumny. Cops are not murderers. No officer goes out in the field wishing to shoot anyone, armed or unarmed. Regardless of what happened with Mike Brown, in an overwhelming majority of cases, it is not the cops, but the people they stop, who can prevent detentions from turning into tragedies.
That is a lie. You love it, don't you? You love to make me hit you!
It is not the cops, but the people they stop, who can prevent detentions from turning into tragedies.
Why can't you give me the respect that I'm entitled to?
Working the streets, I can't even count how many times I withstood curses, screaming, tantrums, aggressive and menacing encroachments on my safety zone, and outright challenges to my authority.
I am a cop, and you will respect my authority.
In the vast majority of such encounters, I was able to peacefully resolve the situation without using force. Cops deploy their training and their intuition creatively, and I wielded every trick in my arsenal, including verbal judo, humor, warnings, and ostentatious displays of the lethal and non-lethal hardware resting on my duty belt. We are still learning what transpired between Officer Darren Wilson and Brown, but in most cases it's less ambiguous, and officers are rarely at fault. When they use force, they are defending their or the public's safety. Even though it may sound harsh and impolitic, here is the bottom line. If you don't want to get shot, tased, pepper sprayed, struck with a baton, or thrown to the ground, just do what I tell you. Is he trying to teach us how to deal with cops or a gang of armed robbers?
Well, everyone listen. Hands up and keep them there or this man dies.
Keep your hands raised. Cooperate. If you make any sudden moves, you will be executed.
He goes on to say, don't argue with me. Don't call me names. Don't tell me that I can't stop you. Don't say I'm a racist pig. Don't threaten that you'll sue me and take away my badge. Don't scream at me that you pay my salary. And don't even think of aggressively walking towards me. Most field stops are complete in minutes. How difficult is it to cooperate for that long? So then in this paragraph, he begins to ramble on about how he knows that some cops might be bullies, They might be guilty of some kind of misconduct. He also states that he worked in internal affairs as an investigator, which definitely shows the bias of internal affairs and how worthless it is to file a report with internal affairs when you have a guy making statements like this, investigating cops for potential bad, illegal, or wrong behavior. And then he proceeds to say, I know there's bad cops, but if you believe or know that the cop stopping you is violating your rights or is acting like a bully, I guarantee that the situation will not become easier if you show your anger and resentment. Worse, initiating a physical confrontation is a sure recipe for getting hurt. Police are legally permitted to use deadly force when they assess a serious threat to their or someone else's life. Save your anger for later and channel it appropriately. Do what the officer tells you to, and it will end safely for both of you. We have a justice system in which you are presumed innocent. I'm sorry. Hold on, I'm sorry. Let me go back. All right, hold on. We have a justice system. We have a justice system in which you are presumed innocent. If a cop can do... Oh, come on. We have a justice system in which you are presumed innocent. If a cop can do his or her job If a cop can do his or her job unmolested, that system can run its course. Later, you can ask for a supervisor, lodge a complaint, or contact civil rights organizations if you feel your rights were violated. Feel free to sue the police. Just don't challenge a cop during a stop. Holy shit! An average cop is always concerned with his or her safety and tries to control every encounter. Well, that's true. That is how we are trained. You don't know what is in my mind when I stop you. Did I just get a radio call for a shooting moments ago? Am I looking for a murderer or an armed fugitive? For you, this might be a simple traffic stop, but for me, each traffic stop is a potential dangerous encounter. Yeah, right. Tell that to Sandra Bland. This stop by an ego-driven police officer ended her life. Try telling that to Philando Castle.
Yanez was quickly suspended from the St. Anthony, Minnesota Police Department and soon indicted for manslaughter. During the trial, Yanez said he feared for his life and thought Castile, a 32-year-old school cafeteria worker, was pulling out a gun he was licensed to carry. Friday, the jury acquitted Yanez of all charges.
Or hell, try telling that to this son of a cop in Missouri. He was unlawfully dragged out of his car and tased into cardiac arrest for 23 seconds. Then, in retaliation for the kid not walking because he physically couldn't, the officer dragged him to the side of the road and dropped him face first onto the curb, breaking multiple bones in his face. Believe me, we realize too that every stop could be our last. Show some empathy for an officer's safety concerns. Don't make our job more difficult than it already is. Guys, these are the real words of a police officer. And I believe the sentiment is shared by most of them. It's no wonder there's a 40% spousal abuse rate among police. This has gotten to an extremely dangerous point where the abusers have convinced most of the abused that they're the ones doing something wrong. This is a typical case of a man telling a woman, "You made me give you a black eye. You should have had dinner ready. This isn't my fault. You make me do this to you." Unfortunately, the majority of our society does comply to survive, and many even praise their abusers. Understandably, this is a survival technique, but it can only last for so long. You are in an abusive relationship, and it's time to get out. The first step is recognizing and admitting that there's a problem. Then, Stop allowing the abuser to tell you how the problem needs to be fixed.